Welcome to another week of the JOANNA WHALEY podcast. And first, let me say happy Pride Month. You made it, friends. You are here. It is June. And if you're like me, I'm somebody who needs community with other queer people who also are interested in spirituality. And I've got a couple avenues coming up for you, and I'll tell you really quickly. The first thing you can do is join Patreon. My Patreon right now at patreon.com/Joanna Whaley has a whole community of people that are starting to build community online with each other. Another way you can do it is go to JoannaWhaley.com/support. And if you right there, you'll see that I have support groups coming up. They're free of charge, and you can join them starting this Pride Month. We're so happy you're here. We're going to kick off a whole episode based off of my brand new song called Out of My Head. Here we go. Can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. I will never be straight, but you say I'll be great if it's out of my head. I was taught, I know. Well, hello, podcast listeners. Oh my goodness, it is Pride Month. It's Pride Month. Come on, give yourselves a round of applause. We made it. We made it, everyone. Pride Month is upon us. And we've been doing this new thing on my podcast each and every week. And today I'm really excited about some new, listen, I've picked up on my technology game around here. Starting today, I have the ability for those that are watching on TikTok Live right now. There's people right now watching this podcast recording take place on TikTok Live. And I have the technology now that anyone watching can hit join the live conversation. And if somebody wants to ask me a live question on the podcast, they can do it. So if you're online, do it. Go ahead and hit that button, and I would love to have you ask questions or have a conversation about conversion therapy, about Pride Month. Anything goes today on the show. To kick it off, I do have a couple questions that were texted in this week, and this is how we kind of start our podcast off every week. I'm going to start off with this first question from Jay in Denver. Jay writes, "Hi, Joanna. I'm someone who's still in the closet and still very fearful due to my evangelical background and family connections. Every Pride Month, I get nervous to go into stores with my family because I have been through conversion therapy, and I fear that the rainbows in the stores are going to trigger difficult conversations between me and my spouse. What advice do you have for somebody going through this in June as Pride Month begins and they're still in the closet?" Wow. Wow. First, let me say, I get this. I've lived this. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, I'm a 3-time conversion therapy survivor. And I remember June coming around every year, going into Target every single year, and just being afraid. Because right when you walk in the front door, right, there it is. The rainbow section is right there. So what do? There's a lot of things you can, but the reality is that there's not much we can do other than just avoid, right? Like, it's really difficult to just like avoid it, especially because like Pride Month, there's rainbows everywhere. So, and every company in the world becomes gay during Pride Month. So it's like, what do you do here, right? I've just kind of learned in my process is that honesty is best. If you are somebody saying, you know what, like your identity, who you are, or who you love, how you identify is something you feel that eventually you're going to have to like deal with. Some people stay in the closet their whole life, and that is something that people do. But there's other people that are like, okay, I'm going to have to deal with this at some point, but now is not the time. The best thing to do is just carry on like normal. And what I've come to find out is that I am most fearful, and everyone else around me is probably just thinking, where's the milk in the store? Okay. So I would just say, keep taking the next step. walk to the next section. If the rainbow section's on your right and you're afraid that your spouse or whoever he's with is going to like pitch a fit if you like look at the cute dress or whatever, you can you just keep moving. Look to the other side of the store. That's my best advice I have. So here on the show, if you are somebody who is if you are here, I'm going to be admitting people in from our, I see we have one person calling in. Dale, I'm going to bring you in on the show here. Dale, welcome. Looks like Dale's still connecting. There's new technology here on the podcast. Dale, welcome to the Joanna Whaley podcast. How's it going?
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I love what you're doing so far. I haven't seen you before, but I'm sitting in my little spot. I call it the chocolate spot. That's my name, Chocolate.
I love it.
When I perform.
Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
When I perform, my name is Chocolate.
Wonderful. Do you perform drag?
Oh, you know what? That's the thing. So I perform just singing and dancing and all this. I used to do theater, and I'm trying to actually get a job on a cruise line, but I haven't done drag yet. I so want to. I have a few friends that actually do shows. So there's no way I can't not if I don't want to. So it's just at this point getting up not so much the nerve because I'm a ham, but I need to find the right everything. You know what I mean? I need to find the right. I need to find the right look. I need to find the right name. I need to find shoes that look great, but I have to be able to walk in them though.
Yeah. Listen, if it's not 4 inches or higher, what's the point? That's what I say. But
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get, what are they called? Those ones that are easy to walk in, but they look like high heels. What are those things called?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check that. I mean,
wedges.
Sure. So, Dale, what are your thoughts? Pride Month is coming up. We're talking about conversion therapy on the show. What are your thoughts with Pride Month coming up? Do you have any questions for us today?
Not so much questions as I was agreeing to. I agree with a lot of what you were talking about, and it's terrible when people are in stores and there's that much anxiety. As somebody who suffers from anxiety and depression, I totally understand the freaking out moment of stuff like that. My youngest son is gay. My middle daughter is bisexual, and I've never cared about anything like that, even since I was a little guy. I like people, and I don't like people for the same reason. If you're a jerk, or a word that starts with the rhymes of glass and then ends in hole, if you're that, it doesn't matter what kind of person you are, color, this, that, and the other. I just don't like jerks. But if you're a nice person,
amen to that.
Then I like you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all it should be. That's all
awesome.
It should be.
Yeah. Well, Dale, first of all, I want to thank you. This is going to be like radio. I'm going to probably boot you off, but I hope it doesn't kick you off. Join us again if you're still, if you. As I said, I don't know how this technology works yet. I'm learning a lot of it, but I just want to thank you for joining this conversation. And first of all, thank you for being an ally to your children.
Oh, hell yeah.
I can't imagine in my world having my mother's support has been such a big deal. So, and the numbers show, the statistics show, when parents are supportive of their queer kids, it goes a long way. So, Dale, thank you for joining the show. We are going to grab another invite here. Let's see. We are going to invite, we have lots of people here waiting to get in the show, it looks like. Listen, if you send a request, if you want to join the conversation, and I will get you in as soon as possible here. So we are really looking. I have another question here from Janice in Philadelphia. It says this: I'm an out lesbian, but my girlfriend's family is highly religious. She is out to her family, but is really difficult for me to constantly go back in the closet for her. What are your thoughts and suggestions in navigating this, as Pride Month makes me want to post pictures of my girlfriend because I love her so much? Oh, this is so hard. And I think this is where conversations matter. This is where clarity matters. This is where you just need to continue to ask the questions. Clarity, clarity, clarity. Have conversations with your partner. And ultimately, it is not your job to out your partner. It is their job to come out themselves in the way that's healthiest for them. It's a really difficult place to be. Again, if you're watching live during the podcast recording, at any time you hit the join the conversation, and I will see that and would love to invite you in to the show. Man, we're having an awesome, difficult questions here. Awesome and difficult. I think about Chocolate, who just called into the show, loving on their kids no matter what, how they identify, who they love, who loves them. That is so important, so important that we continue to just show that love to our kids. Because I work with people all the time who their parents are the furthest from affirming. They disown them. They tell them that they'll no longer have inheritance if they come out and love who they love. And so this is such a difficult thing to navigate for people, especially when it comes to religion. I have a question here from Dennis. Looks like Dennis in Florida. Dennis says, I live in a crazy conservative town in Florida. Imagine that. And I've been wanting to come out as a trans feminine for quite some time, but I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me here. This is really hard. I talk to people all over the country where this show is recorded, where I'm at, we're in the United States, and there's some states that are really difficult. It's really, really difficult to walk through when your state or your government is trying to make it illegal for you to exist. Here's what I can say is always keep an eye on what's going on, and also understand some of the painting we see is difficult at times. It can seem clouded. So it looks like we have another guest here. Let's see here who we have on the show. Hello, how are you?
Wonderful, Pastor Whaley. How are you,
Pastor Whaley? Oh my gosh, I'm great. We only have a couple minutes. What is your question or thought?
Well, I, like Dennis, also live in this super conservative wonderland that is the state of Florida. And, I'm dealing with a little bit of a pet peeve tonight because Ronnie Dirty DeSantis, our governor, said no pride lights on the bridges.
Right.
And, where I live in West Palm Beach, Florida, they don't do that ordinarily. But to know that it's not even an option, it's like, you diva.
Fiona, do you mind waiting for a moment till after the commercial break and we pick up this conversation on the other side of it? Would that be okay?
Let's do the commercial.
Awesome. All right. If you're listening to the show, we're going to carry this on to the next segment. We'll be right back after this one short commercial. We'll be right back, friends. Hey listeners, happy Pride Month. If you are a queer person and you this Pride Month are looking for a community of people to do life with and to grow spiritually with, even if that seems like something you've never been able to do before, you can do that right now. If you go to patreon.com/Joanna Whaley, you can join a whole group of LGBTQ people and allies who are trying to navigate this spiritual journey in step with their queerness. So do yourself a favor this Pride Month and go to patreon.com/Joanna Whaley. You can join for as little as $1.99 a month, all the way up to $9.99 a month, and join a community and have one-on-one conversations with me all the time. Happy Pride Month. We would love to see you in our community. Patreon.com/Joanna Whaley. Can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. Well, welcome back to the podcast. I am just, you know what? Today we're talking about conversion therapy. It's the beginning of Pride Month, and I had so much fun in the first section of the show, and this is normally where I just talk by myself, but one of our Patreon subscribers literally just called in, and I wanted to keep talking to her because she's amazing. Fiona, thank you so much for calling. Okay, so you're going to hear Fiona on the podcast. I think we said somewhere around 4th of July. You're going to hear from her again, but tell us a little bit more about what's going on in your state. You said that there's some state laws happening right now and things going on with the governor that's just been really difficult for you to navigate.
Before we get into that, Joanna, I just want to say, after hearing that lovely commercial, that I am a Patreon member, and I was so impressed with the amount of content that you put out that I realized I need to upgrade my membership. I need to max $9.99 a month.
Wow. Okay.
You're worth it, girl.
I was always worried I was annoying people, but okay, that's good to hear.
You know what? Everyone can take it at their own dose, right?
That's true.
It's there for when you want it.
So yeah, this is off topic. This is off the script. I'm throwing my script aside for a minute because I thought that what you said was so important and something we need to discuss. Like, people live in states where the government is actively working against your personhood. So how is that? Like you said, the state's kind of banned all rainbow expressions anywhere. So tell us what it's like living through that.
In Florida, our waterways are a very special thing here in Florida. And the bridges, they're feats of engineering. Some of the most famous bridges in the United States are here in Florida. And, they light these bridges up for all kinds of reasons, for St. Patrick's Day, for breast cancer awareness, for supporting Ukraine. But here now, Governor DeSantis has decided to sign this thing that doesn't allow them to fly, or not fly, but rather put rainbow colors up on these bridges.
Wow.
All the way to like Labor Day, I believe, which is just absurd.
Yeah. Wow.
And so thought out, right? So.
And how is that making you feel as a queer person in the state of Florida? Like, what does that communicate to you?
It communicates to me that of how absolutely fearful Ron DeSantis must be of the impending shellacking coming his way. Right.
Via votes. We mean via votes, people. That's what we mean.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. Actually, I think via the U.S. Justice Department. I think you will end up facing criminal action.
Oh, my.
Those migrant children around. I think that will ultimately be termed
interesting
interstate trafficking of minors is what I think he'll end up going down for.
Yeah, wow.
But
voting. well, thank you, Fiona, for just sharing that with us as a trans person in Florida. That can't be easy. I talk to so many people from states that actively seek to stamp out their identity. And I know people that are in the closet in these states, and it's so hard to just live and exist. So thank you for being you where you are. And
well, I think they recognize it, right, Joanna? Like, they understand the growing number of our youth that continually identify with the LGBT spectrum, right?
Right.
They view it as all-out warfare. They say this is something that's growing in popularity. This is something that is becoming so natural that we have to use our authority and our power to take action against this. Right. And the fact that they have to do that just lets you know just how prevalent our community is nowadays, and it gives me renewed hope. Like he wouldn't take an action against us if we weren't that powerful of an adversary.
Right. Well, awesome. Well, Fiona, thank you for calling in and being a part of the conversation. And we are going to carry on with this show today. And what a fun thing to be able to do that. And you know what? Like, I'm thinking that I'm going to just keep, if I'm talking about something and it resonates with you, feel free to request to join the conversation. We could have a conversation about it. But what I want to do today on the show is this. As this show is released, if you're listening to this on the day it's released, which would be pretty awesome. I would think you're pretty cool if you listen to it on Sunday when it comes out. But I have just released a brand new song called Out of My Head. When you listen to this song, June 1st, on the beginning of Pride Month, I have a brand new song called Out of My Head coming out. What I want to do today on the podcast is really I want to tell you the story of this song. I want to play. Look, I even have my guitar here in studio. I want to play some parts of this song for you live on the podcast. I want to just really dive into this with you today. Go through some of these lyrics and talk about why I wrote this song. And the first thing I'm going to tell you about this song is that it is definitely the beginning. If you listen to any of my music, any of my content, you know that I've been historically a queer worship artist. I've been a queer, Christian artist. This song is going to... I'm not abandoning the Christian realm, or I'm definitely still creating spiritual music and spiritually aware music. But this song is a little bit of a diversion from what I've done in the past. Because this song, I'm just going to be honest with you, this song is a little bit of a middle finger to ministers that sent me to conversion therapy. When I was young, in my early 20s, I ended up going to conversion therapy at the doing of my pastors. And my pastors were like, we think this is good for you. And this song, I'm just going to read the lyrics to you. Well, I'm going to sing part of it. I'll read the lyrics to you. Well, how about I'll read them, then I'll sing them, and then I'm going to explain them. So I'm just literally going to start in verse 1. And verse 1 goes like this. And let's see. Look, I'm fancy today. I have everything all plugged in here on the show, so you can hear my guitar and everything. It's beautiful. Okay, so the first verse goes like this. I was taught a noble truth that everyone had a way to you. It was reckless, but it made sense. I was taught a noble truth that everyone had a way to you. It was reckless, but it made sense. That's the lyric of the first part of this song. Because we were taught that that everyone forgot, right? John 3:16, God so loved the world that he sent his one and only son to love, for the love of the world. That's what we were taught. We were taught to be loving and love everyone we saw because they were God's creation, right? But then, here's the second verse. It says this. It wasn't until I came to you, speaking of the pastors, that I was told the things you do, speaking of me, needed corrected. I was thoughtless. It goes like this. It wasn't until it came to you that I was told the things I do needed corrected. I was thoughtless. And the idea here in this part of the song was that I blindly listened to my pastors. Whatever my pastor said was the truth. It was the absolute only thing that I should listen to. That they had the right. They had everything for me. Every intention they had was good for me. And there's always that thing, like, we love you. We want what's best for you. We want God's best for you. So when I heard words like that, oh, well, if it's God's best for me, if you're saying what you're saying, Pastor, is best for me, then I'll do it. Because I want what's God's best for me. I was thoughtless. And then came the chorus. Okay, I love this chorus. And it's speaking of my queerness. As I said, I went to conversion therapy 3 times. I've been in conversion therapy 3 times. It didn't work. Hello, here I am, trans woman. It doesn't work. In fact, I know many people who have gone through conversion therapy and they're still queer today. I don't know one person in my world that was part of my church that it worked on, that went to Exodus International, that went through conversion therapy, went through or reparative or biblical counseling, and it worked. It just doesn't work. And so I ended up having to understand this isn't going to leave me. So the chorus says, I can't get it out of my head. I can't get it out of my head. I will never be straight, but you say I'll be great if it's out of my head. So this narrative, and it goes like this: can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. I will never be straight, but you say I'll be great if it's out of my head. Like this idea, and we were taught in evangelical Christianity that there was this saying that was always said, and it came from like all the big megachurch pastors. And I worked for the biggest megachurch pastors in the world. Like I worked at one of the biggest churches in America, and this is the line that our pastor copied, that many pastors copied: nothing will take you further, faster from the heart of God than sexual sin, right? And it was framed that my transness was sexual sin. That was what was told to me, is that who I was, how I identified, was sin. And so for me, I started to come to this thing, and they would say, God will never bless you when you're holding on to this sin. But here's the thing. When you look at Christianity, when you look at the biggest pastors in the world, some of the biggest names in Christianity have been living with some really outwardly wild public sin, or some secret sin that we find out, but it seems that God blesses them like crazy. But I was told that if I gave into my transness, if I gave into my depravity, that I would be someone that God would no longer bless. That was the reality. So that's why I wrote these words. It's kind of my response to what they're saying, because they were saying, you'll never be great. God will never bless you if you don't let go of this sin, right? Well, the next part of the song is the second verse. And the second verse, I'll read it to you, and then I'll explain a little bit, and then I'll sing it for you. The second verse says this: held to all impossibles, I told my story at the shows. I was dying, you were trying. Okay, you were trying to make me wear the proper clothes. I was deep down dark, felt like heaven froze. 'Cause in the mirror, I hated all that I could see. I don't know if you're like me, if you're listening to the show, if you're watching online. I feel like there's times where our Christian narrative is really impossible to live up to. It's like really, it seems like every corner you turn, there's just a new rule, and there's a new standard of what you can and can't do, and who you can and can't love. It's just part of how it goes sometimes. And we were held to those impossible standards. And I was taught through conversion therapy, at least my first round of conversion therapy. And tell me if on the comments or if you want to chime in, but I was told this, and when I'm talking about comments, I'm talking about people that are watching, there's people watching the show live. I was told that if I declared my victory, if I told the world that I was healed, I would name and claim my victory. That I could talk my way, I would fake it until I make it, which is evangelical speak for lie to everyone that you're fine. And that's what I had to deal with. So I stood on stages. People don't know that I was a touring musician. I was a musician. I was in the Christian music scene. I played with the Newsboys. I played with all the big bands, all of the big Christian artists out there. I played with Lecrae. I'm not name dropping just to sound cool. I was out in the Christian music scene, and I was standing in front of 10,000 people a night telling them how God delivered me from, quote, my sin of cross-dressing. That was the language I used. I went into a lot of detail about that last week on the podcast, but it was a real thing that I used to do. I used to stand on the stage and tell people that I was healed, and it would get roaring applause. I mean, loud applause. And then we would go into some song like, "Our God is great." Those, yeah, we would go into the big evangelical worship songs, and the whole crowd would worship and yay. But the reality is that we traded the truth of God for a lie, and we worshiped, which is also a scripture that's thrown at the queer community all the time. All the time. The next part of that verse is they were trying to, I was dying on the inside every time I stood in front of a crowd of 10,000, and I was like, God delivered me from this thing. I died a little on the inside each and every time because I was being forced to wear the proper clothing, but I was dark on the inside. I never in a million years understood how to experience the freedom I had been preaching for years. Jennifer in her live chat just said, the ability to mask your feelings is amazing, but looking back, her heart breaks for me. And that's a lot of people say that. A lot of, and thank you for saying that. We have other people in the chat saying they know this darkness. They know this darkness because we're lying to the world about who we are. We're lying about the reality that's going on because when we look in that mirror, we don't see the person God sees. There you go. Language, speaking. It's a podcast, whatever. So that verse goes like this. Hell to all impossibles. I told my story at the shows. I was dying. You were trying to make me wear the proper clothes. I was deep down, felt like heaven froze. 'Cause in the mirror I hate it all that I could see. Can't get it out of my head. Okay, so that was the second verse. Now, the next verse of this song is one that really, you might sometimes listen to a song and part of a song comes and goes and it passes, and you might miss the depth of what's being said. At the end of the podcast today, I'm going to play the song for you in its entirety so you can hear it. And then hopefully, if we're friends, if you haven't listened to the song yet, who are you? Are we actually friends? No, I'm just kidding. But, you can hear the whole song. But this next part, these lyrics I spent a really long time writing, and it's probably the shortest part of the song. The lyrics say this. They say, I have seen the light, and it was burning my eyes with all the smoke from your lies. Okay, so half of this bridge is saying, I've seen the light, and it was burning my eyes because of the smoke from the lies of my pastors. I saw the light. I saw the divine. I saw that pure love that I was seeking, but my eyes were burning from the lies and the smoke being blown by my pastors, telling me that I would never in a million years see the light if I was trans. But I had seen the light, and I have seen the light. Then the next part says, I have heard fire and brimstone aimed at piercing my soul, and you missed and burned down my home. Let me say that again. I've heard fire and brimstone aimed at piercing my soul. Okay? So many times pastors preach, and I've done it a million times. We preach and we preach and we preach, and our goal is to speak to the soul, to lead the soul to repentance, to lead the soul to a life of love and liberty in Jesus, right? But sometimes that preaching is aimed at people, and then, as I said in the next lyric, you missed and burned down my home. You see, because of the church's rhetoric about who I am, because of the church's stance on how I should look, because the church has a hard time with me using a different pronoun, because Christianity in America, in some parts of Christianity, has a hard time calling me by a name that's different from the one I used to go by, even though, everybody uses the word Paul, even though he was Saul most of his life. We don't have a problem there. But we can't do that. But in our pursuit of truth, we ruin people's lives sometimes. The pursuit of truth in some Christian sects has literally ruined lives, has destroyed things that never needed destroyed. Because of the way the church managed all of this, it was aimed at me. It was aimed at my family. And because of my gender variance, I couldn't hold on to anything that I held dear. You want to know about pain? You want to know about sorrow? Is have the truth pointed at you and have that truth burn everything down unnecessarily. That's what happened. And the part of the song goes like this. I have seen the light, and it was burning my eyes with all the smoke from your lies. And I had fire brimstone aimed at piercing my soul. You missed and burned down my home. Can't get it out of my head. And my favorite part of the song comes at the very end. I pull a country vibe at the end. If there's any country music fans out there, I sing like half of the chorus, and it says this. It says, I can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. I will never be straight, but I'm doing real great with you out of my head. Speaking of my former pastors. If you're listening to this show, and to kick off Pride Month this year, I want to tell you something. There's hope on the other side of coming out. There really is. The doom and the gloom and the scare tactics to keep you in the closet are not real. You might lose things in the process, but what I want you to hear is that there's life on the other side of it. What some people might point at you as the truth, it could ruin some things. But I want to tell you, as somebody who has preached every scare tactic in the entire book, I want you to hear me say this. I'm doing well. You need to hear another queer person tell you that as a former pastor, as a former evangelical megachurch pastor, when I came out as a trans woman, my life got better. My life improved. My spirituality got stronger. It was the complete opposite of what my evangelical pastors told me would happen. And you know what? It isn't fun for a season, as they say. It's freedom for the rest of your life. That's what I want you to hear today. Thank you for joining me on the podcast this week. To send you off, I'm going to give you the entire song. I'm going to give you the whole song called Out of My Head. It's out on all streaming platforms. Go check out JOANNA WHALEY anywhere and look up Out of My Head, coming out this Pride Month. Have a great Pride Month. We will see you. We're going to have 2 episodes a week. So here we go. Enjoy Out of My Head, my brand new single, right now, anywhere you get music.
Can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. I will never be straight, but you say I'll be great if it's out of my head. I was taught, I know the truth, that everyone had a way to you. It was reckless, but it made sense. It wasn't until it came to you that I was told the things I do needed corrected. I was thoughtless. Can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. I will never be straight, but you say I'll be great if it's out of my head. After all impossibles, I told my story at the shows. I was dying, you trying to make me wear the proper clothes. I was deep down dark, felt like heaven froze. 'Cause in the mirror, I hated all that I could see. Can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. I will never be straight, but you say I'll be great if it's out of my head. And I've seen the light, and it was burning my eyes with all the smoke from your lights. And I've fire brimstone aimed at piercing my soul. You missed and burned down my home. Can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. I will never be straight, but you say I'll be great if it's out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my